Good morning, everyone, and really a big welcome for joining this online seminar on smart heritage and sustainable cities, which is hosted by the Architecture and Urbanism Research Group at the University of Leeds. My name is Jihan Salim. I'm a professor of architecture at the University of Leeds and the director of the Architecture and Urbanism Research Group. So today's seminar is part of our PGR-led seminar series, which is roughly run twice every year. And the topic of the seminar today focuses on exploring the emergent smart heritage discourse within the context of sustainability. So I would like just to kick off quickly with some introduction and a brief on key themes of the seminar, ideas that we want to talk about today. And apparently, the term smart is becoming a really big buzzword that we're using a lot in terms of research and outside of academia as well. So the phrase smart heritage refers to using technology to enhance the protection, conservation of experience of cultural and historical resources, but it also shares objectives of the smart cities movement for increasing connections, resources, time efficiencies, improving access and enriching people's lives through cultural and historical resources and experiences. And on the other hand as well, smart cities promote sustainability and reduction in energy expenditure, for example, and fosters human, social, and economic capital through a set of smart solutions and strategies. But really looking at this from a different perspective and approaching heritage in a smart context is really challenging, as heritage really involves several sectors like tourism, urbanism, architecture, leisure, culture, and more than that. Hence, our main question today in the seminar that we're trying to raise and discuss and interrogate is how is heritage situated and contextualized in this highly competitive and innovative context? And indeed, heritage is related to more than one side and one angle, which is a defined category in smart heritage in a way, starting from the experts who are the heritage nature and the heritage protection, which looks at the conservation, the restoration, the preservation, and its celebration by promoting its value and its use. And then comes the stakeholders and the users who engage with that sort of heritage. So we interrogate smart heritage as a relation, as a connection at both sides, among the users of common digital platforms, among the institutions and its users, among the objects, the visitors, and among the real and the virtual worlds. And besides, the open resources of data has been a significant change as well that has facilitated transmission and dissemination of information at a long distance. And apart from heritage becoming accessible, there are also new ways of experimenting it and maybe also widening the knowledge and the outreach to more people through, for example, VR, augmented reality, gamification, and this is just some of the examples. So here I would like to ask two key questions that probably a lot of the discussions today will be rotated around that and the core of the discussion today. First is, what are the benefits? And second is how smartness is achieved. For cities and the communities, smart heritage is beneficial as it enables for increased value, as I just mentioned, to be gained from heritage and cultural assets. And also the smart technology on the other side is enabling cultural and historical identities to be further examined, understood, and promoted, which in return for us, it improves their significance and justification for their ongoing protection and engagement. And it also has the potential to reimagine how practices within our cities are manifested by creating new forms, new audiences for urban and heritage values. So how can it be achieved? Which is a really big question that we still don't have a clear answer about that. And all the pieces of research that we're trying to do is just adding a piece of knowledge and a significant value of contribution to that. But what we know is that communities are using smart heritage to promote their past in some way through new mediums and through new platforms. And the technology itself, like the virtual and augmented reality, interactive features in urban space and accessible databases, enabling storytelling, for example, which is not restricting people to to the physicality of objects, as does not have to be in the assets of location showing the physical objects itself and buildings and people. But smart heritage also allows improving how urban professionals, planners, architects, and engineers managing cultural and heritage assets. So technology like 3D scanning and crowd sensors to populate sites and to disseminate them and allow further access to them promotes the methods to measure and document and monitor sites and their degradation and vanishing over time. So, however, there is a kind of absence in many smart cities policies regarding the advantages and the application of smart heritage. And this is where we see the correlation between smart heritage and smart cities to achieve a wider understanding of what is a smart city. And as a result, many of the policies also neglect understanding that notion and heritage directly. What does it mean for them? But rather indirectly through broader policies, which instead focuses on tourism development, public services, and community engagement. And this actually leaves an actual cultural void in many policies that seek to provide a holistic city vision. So, for example, contemporary challenges of postmodern societies are multiple and strongly related to significant progress of information through ICT, of things, artificial intelligence, competitiveness, productivity, connectivity, and welfare. And also, we know that societies are moving towards more resilient approaches, especially in post-pandemic area, looking at immersed in an environment of increasing risk and uncertainty. And hence, it's reasonable to assume that contemporary societies require a broader or a general concept of resilience that is transdisciplinary and applicable to multiple contexts. So I won't go much into that. I will just try to put some key ideas of key issues that we are really interested to discuss today. And I will move on to talk a little bit about the research group and what we're going to do today in terms of our program, our structure. So the Architecture and Urbanism group at the University of Leeds, we are a large group that we pursue interdisciplinary approaches to address some of these challenges that I just mentioned. And therefore today, we bring together PhD candidates and early career researchers from different disciplines, as well as practitioners, to share ideas and knowledge that we can all benefit from. So our first panel today looks at case studies on heritage smartness and its role in urban sustainable context. We will start with our first keynote speaker from Ms. Konstantina Siountri, who will be providing a talk on the importance of cultural heritage services in smart cities environment. We will have a lunch break, and then after that, the second panel will look at the path of achieving smart heritage in sustainable cities, and we'll start with a key talk by Dr. Magda Posani on thermal retrofit of historic walls, challenges and opportunities. In each panel, we will have also 3 presenters across both panels. And at the end of each panel, we will like to receive questions. And please use the chat box. If you have any questions during the talks, please include your questions in there, and we will be able to answer, to harvest those and bring them back. The first panel will be chaired by Mr. Heng Song, and I will be chairing the second panel. So please get in touch if you have any questions. I wish you all enjoy the talks today, and over to Heng to start the first panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Professor Jihan. And our first keynote speaker is Konstantina Siountri, who has studied architecture in Athens with a master's degree in the conservation of historic buildings and heritage management. She has worked over several designing projects in Greece and in Cyprus, including European architectural competitions, in which she was distinguished. In the period of 2003 to 2009, she worked as a supervisor engineer on restoration works, landscape planning, and the management of UNESCO monuments and historical sites, funded by the European Community in collaboration with the Greek Ministry of Culture. Thanks a lot for Ms. Konstantina to join us today, and she will talk about the importance of cultural heritage services in smart cities environment.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for your invitation. I'm very honored, really honored to be among you. Professor Heng, you have already mentioned most of the sectors and the subjects that trouble us today in the field of cultural heritage towards digital transformation. So in some case, I'm going to repeat some things, but maybe I can give to your students, to your PhD candidates, some extra information in order to make them more aware of the problem. So let me share my presentation. So before entering the subject, what is cultural heritage? Let's define a little bit what is a smart city environment, because everyone is using smart in everything. Smart services, smart shops, smart education, whatever activity we can imagine in our life can take a word before that and become smart. But what is really smart? Personally, I don't like the definition also. I would prefer, for example, instead of smart cities, using the word digital cities. The phenomenon started is caused by the needs that have come up due to the large urbanization. You may already know that more and more people are concentrated in big cities, and the phenomenon of the mega cities is going to explode the next years. When United Nations have made the study, and they have predicted that until 2030, most of the people will live in about 3% of the land, but also they are going to consume about the 70% of the global energy. So the problem is situated in cities, and there is where we have to focus in order to find solutions to our problems. Right. Also, another phenomenon is that the middle class is rising, and this is something that is causing also has extra effects. For example, the middle class that in India is going to rise about 66% the next years. This means that more people that are paying taxes, they will demand to have access to clean water, energy, education, transport. And that means that the needs of the city administration is going to be bigger. Smart city today is mainly focused in these areas like smart health, smart government, smart grids, smart homes, education, and also this is some of the sectors that are taken into consideration in a smart city concept, smart mobility, and more, and many more, and also many sectors under these main fields like electric vehicle charging, solar power, and many more. As many things as you can imagine. Every activity in our everyday life can become digital or smart, if you want. As you may already know, that there is not an accepted definition of a smart city. It means different things to different people, and also varies depending on the level of development, willingness to change and reform, and the resource and expectation of the local communities. So smart Barcelona is totally different from a smart Indian city. There are different needs, different culture, and this is where cultural heritage also comes in. Mm-hmm. Above all, the recent years, and now, as you said, after the pandemic, resilience and climate neutrality is a major issue. And developers and scientists and trying to find solutions using digital technologies such as AI, Internet of Things, cloud computing, blockchain, and many other technologies, so they can improve energy efficiency, services, and reach the goals of in Europe, we have the so-called Green Deal. And for that reason also, you may already know that EU has taken the initiative to propose 5 missions, and one of them is the climate neutral and smart cities. And in this mission, it's absolutely clear that smartness and climate neutrality go together. The changes in the near future are going to be unprecedented. They're going to affect housing, smart homes, smart factories, or smart buildings, transport, we're already talking about autonomous vehicles, drones, logistics with drones, communication, of course, 5G is here, and we're experimenting on 5G and beyond, 6G, all kinds of services. The legislation, of course, because our legislation has to adapt to this situation, and the perception about what is public and what is private will change in general. And this is for that reason we have to be always alert. We are facing the 4th industrial revolution, and each revolution brings massive changes and also a lot of losses. Everything that we know in this world, the world as we know it, is going to change. And these changes are going to affect technical, economic, social, and cultural sectors. And all these rearrangements will merge what is reality with a new hybrid reality. And that's for that reason, we are already talking about metaverse, digital twins, and cyberspace, and but this is going to get bigger and bigger in the near future. If you can imagine how our world was before electricity or the invasion of cars, you can understand, visualize how much the large scale changes are going to happen in the following years. Imagine today a world without electricity, homes without electricity, factories with productivity without electricity, and also our cities without cars. So you can see that the transformation of our everyday life is going to be catalytic, and then also there's no way to go back. There's not in our hands. Technology is here, and the only way that we can we have to consider how we are going to manage these changes. Of course, there are enablers in these situations. 5G is changing and will change more and more all fields, like as we said, education, health, and mobility. And also, you already talked about data. We have a lot of data. In some cases, they are not open, but the future of our society is that we can have to use more and more data. More and more data should be available, but also what kind of data? Because we have also we have to take into consideration about privacy. The digital transition will change architecture, urban planning, and the operation of the city. And as we already said, the perception of what is real. Virtual reality, augmented reality, extended reality is a new term. Digital twins, metaverse is going to change about the perception of what we are living now, what we lived in the past, and we're going to live in the future. Of course, the concept of the smart city is not something new. It's begun about the 80s. In 1975, Singapore initiated the first smart solutions, trying to manage the traffic. So it's considered to be one of the first smart cities of the world. And that's for that reason they celebrate it. Since then, a lot of projects have been implemented in the field of smart cities, either as integrating smart solutions in already existing environments, or building from the scratch new buildings with the concept of smart cities. But this is rather problematic, and I have posted a photo, so you can already see that a city without a historic background can cause a series of other problems. Also relating to the psychology of the people that live in an environment without having an identity, a link with their past. So the advent of smart city runs the risk of influencing the physiognomy of urban landscapes. Imagine, I have put into the slide 4 skylines of cities. You don't have any other information, but you already know from the landmarks in which city we refer. Imagine new cities that have no identity. There is not a connection with the place. So respecting the cultural characteristics of the existing cities and also trying to expand our cities, creating a cultural identity is very important for our society, our democracy, and we can say the balancing our emotions, our feelings about belonging to a special, to a unique society. It's not new, and many scientists like you are considering how to integrate smart solutions or digital solutions to a cultural heritage content. And we cannot imagine a digital future without the appreciation of the past. I have some problem changing the slides, but it's okay. At the same time, big companies, IBM, Cisco, Google, Apple, the giants of technology, are producing, their production is based on a mass dissemination of standardized products and lifestyles. At your right, you can see an infographic from India, where a smart city, it has nothing different from a smart city in Europe or in United States. And this hybrid environments that are that cities are urged to consume like their products is threatening the cultural identity. But let's go to cultural heritage. And we're talking about both tangible and intangible, because preserving both of them is very important for our societies. And also we're talking about smart cultural heritage that can be produced, consumed with the good way, consumed, like a product, like a service. And this has to do with how to persuade city administration to focus also in this part of smartness, not only smart mobility and smart houses, but also how to make products of smart cultural heritage. And smart cultural heritage can be promoted as a service, as we have mobility as a service, for example. Until now, we can find in literature or everyday life many applications of smart cultural heritage. For example, improving visitors' accessibility to museums, creating new smart museums with VR, AR technologies, smart archaeological sites, smart libraries with semantics, with databases. Also, we can enhance cultural places like with the creation of cultural routes, or help the monitoring and preservation of cultural heritage in front of the threat of natural disasters. But what is beneath that? Before going to design special applications for special sites, what we have to take into consideration before? We have to study very in depth what consists the cultural sites, especially also the communities, the cities, the local sites. I have four images in this slide. All these slides are taken from Greece, and you can see that even in one country, we're talking about totally different characteristics in either we're talking about an island or a northern village. In Greece, for example, northern villages are characterized by the people are more introvert. They are protecting themselves. They are not exposing themselves. So they have big walls and big gates, so as not to let the neighbors know what's going inside the house. This affects their personality. With digital culture and digital cultural heritage application, we're not going to try to change this or alternate this. We have to respect it. We have to bring into the surface these special characteristics. On the opposite, in islands, the people are more open. They act like a community. Here, the doors, they have this kind of small part that opens, and you can actually see inside the house, which is consisted mainly by the bedroom and the kitchen and the wet rooms, and the living room of the city, because there's not many space. It's actually the square of the community. This, you can see that even in a small country like Greece, we have totally different characteristics. Imagine that in a European scale or a global scale, that every single community has its own characteristics that we have to study first, to analyze it, then make decisions and try to implement it, and also get the feedback, because maybe the applications or the initiatives that we want to take, they are not accepted by the communities. And here is not a problem with the community, but it's this is an example of a whole city. When Toronto decided to expand to the waterfront, they made a big architectural competition, and they asked for construction companies to propose solutions. And the competition was won by Google. So I don't know about you, but for me and for my colleagues, it was like a shock in that period. Now, technological giants are going also to design new cities. And the future came by itself to answer. The Toronto waterfront project didn't succeed. Google had to resign, and Toronto started a totally new procedure involving citizens and going to more traditional ways in order to decide what's going to be the Toronto new waterfront site. So we can say that there cannot be a real development without the participation of citizens in governance and planning, without respect and information for the exploitation of available natural resources, without considering the bearing capacity of each region and its identity. And for this reason, in every city, its structure must be understood, its elements must be studied, and its physiognomy must be analyzed, with taking into consideration always make it accessible to everyone, and make accessible the information, the infrastructure, and the knowledge. So architects, civil engineers, landscape and city planners must become more active. And there is no way anymore to develop their projects without the help of ICT sector, because ICT is there, is here to stay, and future cities are going to be there's going to be a merge of both of these fields. If the city planners want to reshape the manageability of their cities, must work with ICT specialists on different customized preservation, management, interpretation, the experience of the memory of the place or the monument or the site, or not, or how to even an artifact. So customization, the keyword I think that is customization. And this means unique solutions for any future digital city, depending on social, economic, environmental, and cultural criteria. At the right, you can see the model of sustainability as it's promoted today, take into consideration environment, economic, and social factors. But real sustainability cannot be achieved without taking also the cultural sector. And for me, and and also I can say for most of the people that are working on cultural preservation, sustainability means preservation of particular characteristics of its area, like flora, fauna, water resources, geomorphology, architectural, industrial, agricultural, commercial, social resources, gastronomy. This is about intangible cultural heritage. The strengthening of specific elements and natural resources like cultural and environmental, and long-term development strategy that includes agriculture, handicrafts, and any activity related to local culture and tradition. The last one, the long-term development strategy, is very, very important. That because until now that we have seen a lot, hundreds of projects that are implemented, but there are small dots in the whole picture. Every country, and I'm very happy that United Kingdom is a pioneer in this field, have to design a strategy. And this is not only in the scale of a nation, but this also has to be implemented in the scale of a city, of a neighborhood, of an organization. You have to design first you have to analyze, then you have to make your priorities. And thirdly, you have to make a long-term development strategy. So information is everywhere over there. I didn't want today to present you about one or two projects that we have made in the university, like that we made this, for example, that we digitized the castle of Rhodes in the Aegean, or that we're trying now to make a pilot digital twin of an architectural site. It's not about specific projects. It's about the big idea. You are every day, the data that we are getting are more and more and more. But what remains stable in all this procedure? The synthesis. As architects, as engineers, our duty is to take all this data and make our story, to make, as you said, our storytelling, to become an author, to produce something innovative, something that will help the community, but it's not going to be for the community, but by and for the citizens. We have to co-create the new solutions. There are many things that we can discuss. For example, that the European, as well, especially in the base of European Commission, there are many initiatives that hide behind this, the preservation of cultural heritage. The Innovation Way, for example, that uses the motto, don't demolish, renovate, is absolutely connected with the preservation of cultural heritage. The new European Bauhaus that is talking about sustainability, about co-creation, about preservation of cultural heritage is another initiative. And at the very end, the European Green Deal that is talking about sustainability and climate neutrality is absolutely connected with the preservation of cultural heritage, because in there's no circular economy without trying to activate all the resources that we already have. And for that, with this motto, I'm going to end that preservation of cultural heritage is in the heart of the problem of sustainability. And with these arguments, we have to persuade also the city administrators that this is for their benefit to start implementing projects and the strategy, of course.
Thank you. Oh, time is up. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for Ms. Konstantina's amazing presentation covering cultural heritage, smart cities, smart cultural heritage, and the relationship between each of them, and how the rules of our city should act to the future development while appreciating the past of our city. Yes.
Is that all right? Yeah, just a question. Konstantina, thank you very much for the amazing presentation. That was really great to hear, and I think it had a widespread of ideas that, you know, I think it will open up a new key themes and things for everybody here today to think about. I just have one question regarding how do we interact, how do we deal with the idea of digital, specifically in the digital technology area, that, you know, we know that it's already empowering people and facilitating collaboration, right, as you rightly said in your presentation. And it also amplifies marginalized voices of making data and information accessible to partners and to people who have no access to this. But on the other side, it's starting to create some disparities and generate negative environmental impacts. And just to name some, like digital inequalities and unequal access to heritage and information, power imbalances, and data ownership, which is a key issue now that we're all thinking about. So from your view, how do you see that we can create the balance between promoting the digital aspect and the smartness of cities and heritage as part of it, but at the other side, how do we deal with this kind of negative impact on communities and disparities?
Oh, this is a very good question, but it opens a very big problem, reveals a very big problem. The data, I believe that the problem with the data is not solved. We have problem with open data, and this is not going to be solved through technology. It's going to be solved through the citizens' engagement and demanding from the state to proceed to the right legislation. So I'm the ones that don't are not afraid of technology. I'm not afraid of artificial intelligence. I'm not afraid of open databases and these sci-fi scenarios that are going to live in an artificial environment. But this is a problem that has to engage more and more people. More and more people have to get informed about what's going on from the school kids. That also they are the most digitized citizens in our societies, but they consume technology. They don't understand technology and the problems that it may cause. And then we go to the parents, the families, and the employees. We have to demand that the legislation has to change. We have to demand about open data. Some countries are forward in this sector. For example, recently I learned about Netherlands. Netherlands is in front is forward in this sector, and they have all their data about their cities open, so they can move to digital twins projects. In Greece, we're talking about digital twins, but we don't have any resources to do this. Every organization, and also I'm working for the Greek government. In our services, we have all our data closed. We are not organized. Yes, we don't have the human resources in order to digitize them. Yes, of course, but also we are not willing to do this. We are not willing to pursue solutions. And people are trying to be either negative or positive to what is going to come. But I believe through education and continuous information, and the universities also and the schools have a major role to play in this field. They have to inform people about the changes that are going to happen, how they can participate, how they can get the benefits, but also what are the real threats, and not these that are shown in sci-fi movies. Yeah. I don't know if I asked your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And as you rightly said, there is no clear answer to this. So we're still trying to investigate and find our ways and try to tackle the big challenges that we're facing at the moment, and coming with the word digital and how that proceeds with this. Thank you very much, Konstantina, for your talk. And I think we need to move to the next talk now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are going to the next part. We have three speakers. The first one is Mr. Yidong Chen. He is a PhD student from China. He will talk about an architecture project in China. So, Mr. Chen, I'm gonna let the panel to you now.
Dear doctor and students, I'm Chen Yidong. Now let's introduce Peixian Longwanli Business Blog Project Report. It introduces the combination of Chinese traditional culture and Western modernizations. This design is meant for the reference and the development of traditional culture, traditional Han culture. First of all, I would like to introduce the planned site selections and have a general understanding of the project. Location analysis, we can see the case is 23 away from Feng country. It is 30 kilometers away from Shandong province. It's a big province of China. So, second, we can see the transportation is very convenient. It has a Peixian railway station and a Peixian bus station. Within the 300 meters of the base, the internal transportation of the base is also very convenient. So we can have a good design in this place. Flat terrain in the base, red plates are residential, green plates are commercial. The source of the pedestrian traffic in the surroundings area is mainly concentrated in 3 directions. The base streamline coincident with the commercial flow. The commercial value of this area is very good, which is suitable for the design of a commercial street. Case studies. This part to analyze some good case of street revenue and construction in China. The first one is Nanjing 1912. Nanjing 1912 was officially opened on December 24, 2004, with a total area of more than 40,000 square meters. It was named after Sun Zhongshan, who took office as the provisional president of the Republic of China in Nanjing. It was the end of China's the fall of the Manchu dynasty and the salvations of the nation. At that time, Nanjing city was a place where Chinese and Western cultures met. It was the political and cultural center of China. Such historical experience and have become the best background of the fashion consumptions in the buildings of the Republic of China, adjacent to the president place. Xintiandi is an urban tourist attraction showing the historical and cultural features of Shanghai. It is a leisure pedestrian street integrating business, entertainment, and culture based on the unique old Shikumen building area. The traditional Shikumen area in Shanghai is integrated with new buildings full of modernity based on the integration of China and the West and the combination of old and new. There are many intangible cultural heritage stores in Huanzhai Alley, where you can see all kinds of exquisite goods. Almost every street restaurant has a special assigned person to perform Sichuan opera feast. Chang many shops also have girls in Chinese clothes playing the if you don't buy anything, just the shopping is a kind of enjoyment next. The food in Huanzhai Alley is very good. You are highly recommended to visit them. Taiguli in Sanlitun, Beijing is a good place for shopping. Analyzing this case, we understand that the variety of the region needs commercial injection. Nianhua Bay, a Zen town, is a tourist resort destination integrating nature, humanity, and the lifestyle. It pursues a humanistic care of unique experience of body, mind, and spirit, allowing people to experience Zen life everywhere. This creating a leisure trip of the spiritual vacation. It's better not visit the old gates when you come to Nanjing. In the area of war, only the old Mendong survived. Lao Mendong historical and cultural street in the south of the city used to be the gathering place of traditional of folk house in Nanjing. So there are many mansions here, and all culture incense originates here. Design concept, intangible cultural heritage. Intangible cultural heritage refers to various forms of traditional cultural experiences passed down from generation to generation by people of all ethnic groups and considered as part of their cultural heritage, as well as objects and places related to traditional cultural experience, such as 剪纸. The paper cut in Chinese is 剪纸, in English is named the paper cut. The paper cut in Jing'an Peixian country is represented by its beautiful, delicate, smooth, and exquisite style. Intangible cultural heritage of Peixian country. According to research, the clay models towers in Wenshan Lake area of Peixian country began in the Ming Dynasty. The folk artists passed it on from generation to generation, forming the unique style of clay molds in Peixian country. It has a certain textual research effect on the research of Chinese opera art and the development of Chinese toys. Peixian country, known as the hometown of Kung Fu, has a long history. Since the Qing and Han dynasty, Peixian people has become practicing Kung Fu for 2,000 years. PhD has a large number of material arts talents, and it also takes on the strength of the foreign Kung Fu. The intangible cultural heritage of Jiangsu province, the Peixian country, Yan and Earth close technical. The ancient dragon is the hometown of the emperors. Walking in Peixian, you will feel the strong flavor of Chinese culture. 歌坟 terrains, Han Gaozu, Yuan Men Miao, and famous far and wide. China's Dao culture. Tao can be Tao, non-Tao. Name can be name, non-name. Are also used in this design. The Han style culture. More importantly, our Chinese culture also has an incomparable completable. When it comes into connect with other excellent cultures in the world, it will immediately collide with the flames and start their integration process, finally forming a culture civilization with our characters. The Han nationality is the main ethnic group in China. It is a descendant of the Yellow Emperor of the Yan Emperor tribes in ancient times. We also called it Huaxia. Hanfu is a traditional Chinese dress. It is the longest used character Chinese. It is the longest used character so far and the only one that has been passed down to these days from the major character systems of ancient times. Chinese characters have been the main official characters in all dynasties of China. There are many traditional Chinese cuisines. Welcome to taste them. And the Chinese food. 12 hours in the Dragon King. It represents 12 hours of 12 nodes. The business layout of the commercial street can also be related to 12 hours. Breakfast in the in hour, take a break at a high hour. The hour is an ancient time unit. In ancient China, a day and a night were divided into 12 periods in the order of the 12 branches of the earth. Each period is called an hour, which is 2 hours today. The hour is named after the name of the local branch. The first hour is midnight, from 11 p.m. to 1 p.m. Then 1 to 3 o'clock is the ugly hour, and 3 to 5 o'clock is the in hour. Whether the architecture and space can use modern language and the understanding of the insurance of the traditional Chinese elements to reflect their artistic conception. The Chinese elements here can be divided into two categories, regional and culture. Region nationalities includes location, climate, and people, where people who live also extend out of culture, such as patterns, clothing, and so on. Chinese traditional culture has become one of the great legacies of human society after thousands of years of perceptions, and it has a very unique and easy to identify characters. Therefore, if we want to make a good use of traditional culture in contemporary architectural design, we need to reasonably integrate the distinctive features of traditional culture with the fashion sense of modern design. Traditional culture can be used in modern design, like this. Dragon King intentions extracted from ink and wash painting. The Chinese dragon represents good luck. So we can use the dragon, extract the shape of the dragon from the Dragon King diagram. Area review. An transfer of Chinese culture. Later, we will introduce the Chinese culture. The street and the design combining Chinese and Western. You can enjoy Chinese architecture while drinking Starbucks. This is a Chinese classical style entrance. The facade with Chinese flavor is combined with the transparency of glasses. So we can the general chart in. We can see the master plan. This is some and the function analysis. The next one is landscape analysis.
Sorry, just to say that there are 2 minutes left.
Almost done. And the basement drive and the motorway. And the people analysis. Thanks for your listening.
Thank you, Mr. Chen, for this presentation based on case analysis from China and the project introduction based on intangible cultural heritage. So our next speaker will be Mr. Abdurrahman Kadi. Abdurrahman is a PhD candidate at the University of Leeds. He has more than 10 years of combined experience in Haji management and operation, in addition to the developed knowledge of the holy city of Makkah's local content, urban management, and strategy development. Previously, he worked with many public bodies and private institutions in Saudi Arabia, which enhanced his experience in fieldwork operations and supervision. Abdurrahman is a postgraduate researcher in the impact of urban management on crowd movement and user experience through the journey of Haji, frequent temporary mega events in Saudi Arabia. So, Mr. Abdurrahman Kadi, I'm gonna let the panel to you now.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Heng, for that brilliant introduction. Thank you, my previous presenters. My topic is slightly tackling the urban heritage from the management perspective. So I'm talking about the Hajj, the Islamic pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia. This is itself, it's a heritage event. It's been there for over 1400 years. It's one of the most secret places for Muslims around the world. It contains a lot of heritage sites and locations. So just presenting where it's about. So the case study is in Saudi Arabia, Mecca, especially in the holy sites. There's multiple locations and heritage sites in this pilgrimage. Most famous one is the Masjid Haram, or the Holy Mosque, or the Ground Mosque, goes by a lot of names, where the Kaaba is located. This specific site has been developed over 1400 years. It started as a very small location of almost less than 500 square meters, and over the years it's been developing to reach over 1.8 million square meters. During this process of development and redevelopment again and again, a lot of smaller heritage sites has been lost and destroyed in order to expand the capacity of the current location. From this perspective, going on the rest of the locations, how they are following the footsteps of mega developments for mega events that can host mass gatherings of millions of people around the year. Just to explain the overview, this is another site of the holy sites regarding this pilgrimage. This site, initially it was a vacant land, but over the years, to accommodate the increasing capacity, they have built this major mega building of concrete. It obviously serves the purpose of it, but unfortunately, during this process, a lot of heritage locations and buildings has been removed or just vanished. This is an example of how a development serving a function can take over the place, nevertheless moving a lot of the heritage location along the site. So this is the side view of showing the holy sites, the three holy sites over here, Mina, Muzdalifah, and Arafah, and at the end of it, the Jamara Bridge, where the development has happened. Also, here's the Masjid Haram, the first location we talked about, and just to focus on the scope, we are talking about this specific area between the Jamara Bridge and Masjid Haram. This is a proposal, a development proposal for the area that really looked at the heritage locations of this site. They tried to preserve what left of it to accommodate its function with the full process of the pilgrimage. They tried to connect and rebuild some of it. So they nowadays really taking the heritage into their consideration when they are development, not as previously. Zooming into the area, so we can notice on the purple color, this is the Jamara Bridge, where the mega massive development has happened, and this is a Masjid Haram in green, where the current development is carrying on. And looking at the area between both locations, how it really locked, it just neglected and not really up to date with the current development. This is what the research is talking about, how after done with the heritage development side, how we can manage that side, how we can manage the activities of occurring on this side. If I may quote Dr. Konstantina, when she started, she said, mostly nowadays, most activities can be conducted online. I'm just emphasizing on mostly, this is one of the activities that cannot happen online. This needs to be physical and needs to occur in the same exact space and time, year after year. So on that issue, the study is looking at the impact of urban management of crowd movement during Hajj on the user experience. And since the user or the pilgrims in this case are the basis of this location. They are the ones who use it and really cherish it. So they should need the management system should be based on their needs and expectations. From that, developing a theory of how to really manage such a complex location, or that includes a lot of heritage and massive development and mega events occurring in this site. So from the variables of the urban management, we have 4 categories of activity: the public realm, and the governance, and eventually the user. Adding some of the challenges of the event or the activities that happens inside or within this place, combining them both together, providing or resulting into a conceptual framework that can be the basis to provide a theoretical and an urban management framework for such location. So from that, developing a theoretical framework that it really concentrated on how to manage the event or the activity at the place, how to understand and steer the crowd movement, and how the user can be the centric or the centricity of this management, and how their needs and expectation and characteristics can be adhered to. So from the previous variables, we have taken the 3 components of management, crowd movement, and user centricity, representing the management activity and user as the variables of urban management. Building on that, providing the sub-themes of these variables of how we can really comprehensively provide a holistic management framework for such an event. Moving on to really provide a complete picture of managing such a massive location and a massive movement, how we can identify the basic assets and resources, controllers, requirements, objectives, constraints, directives, enablers, criticals, and process. To this end, the framework is developed by the data collection of the case study and produces the 3rd level of the elements of this framework, providing such a holistic urban management framework that really looks into how to support developing such a heritage location, and how to continue and improve the activities that happens in this location. One of these smaller elements is we are talking about the tools and technologies over here, and how we can implement these technologies to really facilitate the movement and enhance the conditions of the current locations. Lastly, just to clarify how any management, any event to manage should follow the process of complying with the event management needs and assets to provide a fully framework, and then moving on the crowd movement elements of how to identify the peak points, the bottlenecks, the conditions of the crowd, how they managed, how the personalities and technology needs, eventually going to the user centricity of what are the user, how we identify them, how we really know their characteristics, what makes their characteristics, for example, the ethnicities and culture, belief, customs and habits, and the health conditions. For such an event attended by over 2 million people a year, they come from all different backgrounds and cultures, opposing to different heritage sites that really have citizens or let's say normal users that really occurs every other time. This event is unique by having different characteristics of user coming from all around the world that are joining into the same place and performing the same activity of the heritage site. Eventually, just to end by this slide, the idea is to really reform any management approach to make it based on a user-centric, or make it a user-centric management approach to have to fulfill the user needs and expectations to eventually have a well-developed location and a successful event, if may. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for this presentation covering the management of crowd movement. I saw there is a question in the Q&A part. We will go through this at the end of this panel. Our next speaker will be the final speaker for this panel. She is Ms. Danny Yan. She held a master's degree from the University of Manchester, and now she's a smart solution consulting engineer at the East China Architectural Design and Research Institute in Shanghai, China. So Ms. Yan, I will let the panel to you now.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, it's already evening in China, though. My name is Danny. Now is a senior consultant for engineering digitization from a class in China. Well, I would like to say thank you for Architecture and Urbanism Research Group at University of Leeds holding this seminar. Well, it's really an honor to be here. Okay, I'm going to start my presentation. Well, today I'm going to introduce a case study about heritage digital restoration to given project. Is named the Zhang Garden. And this speech will be given into 4 parts. So first of all, a very quick brief background about Zhang Garden. Could you please, next page. So first of all, Zhang Garden is located in the center of Shanghai on the Nanjing West Road. Yeah, if you ever been to Shanghai, you must know it. Actually, in 1893, a businessman Zhang invited a British architect to design it as a private garden and name it as a Zhang Garden. In 1990, Zhang Garden was gradually converted into a Shikumen-style residence. After nearly 100 years of use, the building was severely damaged. In order to protect and preserve the historical architectural features and consider the sustainable development of the city. In 2017, the Shanghai municipal government decided to implement the Zhang Garden conservation renewal project. Well, since the project covers the very massive constructions such as some preservation and the protection of historical architecture features, renovation of old buildings, some new constructions, and the connection of underground works. It has a long period of construction. So we plan to use digital method to improve the whole quality of this project. But in the preparation phase, we identify 3 main challenges. Yeah, first of all, we have learned that the management of most historical buildings is still based on paper records and manual inspections. Therefore, there is a need to upgrade the mode of management. And for the second one, for aged historical buildings and neighborhoods, it's a problem to monitor their health in real time. And finally, due to the lack of data, it makes it difficult to use digital method to determine the whole the entire health of the heritage. So in response to above problems, we proposed a solution for heritage smart management. The main idea is to use data collection to twin Zhangyuan digitally, and then use data monitoring and analysis to understand the health of Zhang Garden in real time, and ultimately to realize the digital management of Zhang Garden. Well, according to the different phase of the project, we propose three steps to digital management and the digital conservation of heritage: digital archive, digital restoration management, and the digital operation and maintenance. First, the first step in digital management requires the digitization of the entire heritage asset. Now we have divided them in the required data into 10 categories. We could see that it's very massive and diverse. To collect this data, well, next page, please. To collect this data, 3-dimension laser scanning and round tilt photography are usually used to obtain 3-dimensional pointed cloud data. And those data are used for reverse drawing, and finally, we could develop a BIM model. And now we got the data of the heritage. Then we need a digital archive to accommodate those materials. Unlike the traditional physical archive, the digital archive can retain more forms of materials, such as photo, drawing, and documents, videos, as well as some audios. And you don't have to worry about them wearing out over time. So it is also possible to visualize the building forms and recording of the craftsmanship and the components. And you can also search the building information as much as quickly and accurately as possible. Well, at a macro level, digital twin historical building allow for their digital assignment management, as well as restoring their historical appearance. And you can also present the future plan of the entire community. Well, on a micro level, next page, please. Yeah, thank you. On a micro level, a three-dimension component archive can be created to record the unique shape and the craftsmanship of the featured component. Some exterior decorations, such as column relief and doorways and roof balcony, yes, some features like this. While the heritage is being renovated. Yeah, here's a video. Could you please play for me? Yeah. Yeah, just click the yeah, thank you. During the design phase of the renovation scheme, the demolition and the new construction of the building can be simulated in the digital management platform. Well, you can directly see which building is gonna remove and which gonna replace, and for some area there's gonna a new building created in here. While the heritage is being renovated, we can simulate construction and extrapolate the construction cycle of the project. Yeah, next page, please. Yeah, we can simulate the construction and extrapolate the construction cycle of the project. In addition to that, we can combine the video from the site camera, modeling, and the construction progress scheme. allow you to understand the real duration of the site work and improve management efficiency. So next, the renovation process of the building will involve civil demolition, and the tenant will redecorate the building. To prevent the structural impacts on the historical buildings during the renovation and the refurbishments, it's recommended that the sensing equipment can be installed in various parts of the building to monitor its health in real time. Well, here are some common sensors. For example, the building settlement sensors, crack displacement sensor, and building tilt sensors. You can set a limit value. Well, when it's beyond to the value, the platform will be alerted and positioned in the model. Similarly, during the next page, please. Well, similarly, during the operation maintenance phase, you can set up sensors in the buildings and the neighborhoods to monitor the real-time health of the neighborhood. Also, in conjunction with human patrols, the safe operations of the historical district is greatly ensured. Finally, please. Finally, it is possible to monitor the carbon emission of the historical buildings during the operation maintenance phase by docking data such as water and electricity usage to calculate the carbon emission data and graphically display the total carbon emissions of district. We can adjust our operational strategies based on the data, responding to the WHO's sustainability strategies and policies. Well, overall, the path of the solution, overall, the path of the solution is through data collecting by the Internet of Things, developing and we can develop a digital platform to classify the data, and by using the BEAM technology to present it. And finally, use the data to achieve the digital management of the renewal of the heritage. So that is all I've got to share today. I would like to say thank you again to the Architecture and Urbanism Research Group at the University of Leeds. Well, thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Yan, for this brilliant renovation introduction in China. This is our first panel, and we have 3 questions in the Q&A part. 2 of them went into part of presentation of Abdurrahman Kadi. The first one I will type into the chat box is about how we can make mistakes. Make mistakes, sorry, less, and how can we live with that? How can we make sure the plan will be in practical term in the end? So, Mr. Abdurrahman Kadi.
Okay. So there's a question from May. She's asking about.
Yeah, there's 2 questions for you. First one, I tapped it into chat box now. Can you see it?
Yeah. How can we live with that, and how can we make sure the plan will be in practical term? So to answer that, from the investigation of the fieldwork and from the previous knowledge and interviewing the experts, main stakeholders of managing this event, the most feedback and the most obvious answer I always got, everything is based on the user. What are they, what are the needs, characteristics, what they are expecting, what are their capabilities. So it would be kind of imperfection to build up a management system or to use a management approach that is not really addressing the user needs and expectation, and that eventually will lead to producing a lot of management gaps and a lot of gaps in the overall result of the collective user experience. Will that answer the question? Mr. Heng, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. This one is from an anonymous participant. Yeah, and then we can go to the next one. And if this one cannot be answered, they will add into at the final stage. Here is the next question to you. Could you please tell us were you able to investigate all the variables in the field work? And if yes, can you please reflect more on what are the key outcome of that? If you are focused on certain elements, can you please specify and who's going to use this framework?
Just to answer Dr. May question first, if I may. Yes, so these elements were investigated during the field work. We used 3 different methods of data collection, interviewing, questionnaires, and study observational research of site visits to control and to define and identify the smaller elements. Regarding who would be using this framework. So the framework is built on a user-centric approach to manage such an event. So every different stakeholders, they are responsible politically or operationally, or even sometimes planning for development or for a new strategic plan. They will and they need to use such a framework to really comprehensively cover all the smaller elements and see the interconnection between each and every one of them. Well,
yes.
I think there's another part of the question is that who is going to use this framework? Who are your main beneficiaries? You know, what kind of impact are you expecting as a major outcome of this investigation?
Right.
Yeah, as I just said, maybe, so the framework is regarding all entities and different stakeholders. They are managing planning this area, right? So in Hajj is interconnected with politics, with regulations, with management and development. So planner would use that. They need to use such a framework to identify all the interconnection elements or operation entities. They will need to use that. And I'm not sure about architects in general, but to have a holistic approach such as it will help in a way or another.
Thank you, Abdul Rahman.
Thank you, Mr.
So another question is from May, and this is a question to Ms. Danny. I typed the question to the chat box. Ms. Danny.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, basically, we who can build this, who can develop this platform? It typically is the policymakers, or some company who own this asset, who own the whole area. So they would like to develop the digital platform to manage his or her asset. So he can access those data. For our ordinary people, I'm afraid we cannot. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for Lily's question. Your answers can answer her question now. Thank you very much for your question, and thanks for May's question as well. Is anybody from the participants has any questions to our speakers.
Okay, if there's no more questions, so I think we can have a short break for 15 minutes, and then we come back for kicking off the second panel, if that's okay. So see you in 15 minutes again. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you everybody for coming back, and I hope you had a quick break to grab a drink or something. Thanks for showing up again. So we start our second panel on the path of achieving smart heritage in sustainable cities. And we're going to have another keynote talk today by Dr. Magda Posani, and three presenters similar to the same format of the morning panel as well. Dr. Magda is a research assistant at ETH Zurich, and she holds a PhD degree in civil engineering. She is a building engineer aiming to create a more sustainable construction industry. Her specific focus is on retrofitting existing and on historical constructions for better comfort and reductions of energy demands. Magda's talk today is titled Thermal Retrofit of Historic Walls, Challenges and Opportunities. Magda, thank you very much for coming today and sparing the time, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I will try again to share my screen. I hope everybody can see it and hear me well. Thank you again for inviting me. And yes, I would like to talk about thermal retrofit of historic walls, which on one end, it is a very specific topic, but it is also very relevant. So I think it is worth taking the time for talking about it. And it is important for a sustainable environment because, as we all know, the climate crisis is worsening, and the European Union committed to become climate neutral by 2050. And to reach such an ambitious goal, the strategic importance of a large energy efficient renovation of the existing building stock is obvious. And we also have to account that almost 30% of existing buildings in Europe were built before 1945. So they qualify as traditionally built construction, and part of that is historic buildings. When we talk about traditional and historic buildings, the situation about post-insulating the walls gets very complicated for several reasons. And there are still several open questions about the use of thermal insulation, mainly the feasibility of intervention. We indeed know that post-insulating existing walls, it's a very invasive intervention, and so we should be very aware of the conservation restraints. And also there is a very big open discussion about the actual efficacy of the intervention when we consider massive walls in Mediterranean countries, particularly, and also the compatibility considering moisture dynamics is not clear. So the challenges are evident, but also there is a great potential because using thermal insulation can lead to have better indoor environments in historic construction, namely potentially higher indoor comfort and also lower operational energy demands. And when we have more comfortable construction with lower energy demands, these historic buildings become more appealing for the users, and so it's more likely that they will be kept in use, and in this sense they will be kept alive in an easier way. So it's a great chance for sustainability on different points, namely for reducing the energy consumption and consequent emissions from these buildings, but also to having a continued use, which can help preserving this building that are part of our culture, and they should be preserved. And also, of course, having a continued use in existing buildings somehow reduce the need for new constructions. Starting from here, today I would like to talk a bit more specifically about the feasibility of the intervention, because we can certainly talk about the technical difficulties, but the discussion should always start from the preservation point of view. So when can we actually use thermal insulation, when it is reasonable to do so? So what we could discuss and try to address is when, where, and what to apply when we want to post-insulate historic walls. We see here some images, and they represent the fact that typically we can retrofit historic buildings applying exterior or interior insulation. And the typical typologies of thermal insulation adopted are panels and rolls, which are applied with mechanical fastening or with an adhesive layer. Or we can also adopt thermal insulating mortars, which can be applied with via spraying or via spatula application. So we can discuss when it is reasonable to apply thermal insulation, starting from some extracts, some concepts from the international charters on conservation and restoration of cultural heritage. In particular, what I thought was relevant was some extracts from the Venice Charter, the NARA document on authenticity, the ICOMOS Charter, New Zealand Charter, and finally the Burra Charter. And the main principle that can be useful for discussing thermal insulation are the degree of cultural significance of the buildings and the concepts of minimal intervention, authenticity, integrity, and reversibility. So, first of all, when we intervene on historic construction, we should always start with a preliminary phase of recognition of the values that characterize the specific building that we are considering. This step allows understanding the building's significance, which is very important because relative degrees of cultural significance may lead to different conservation actions. So the thermal retrofits can be designed just after we have recognized these values and we know the constraints that come from there. And considering the concept of minimal intervention, we can say that we want to do as much as necessary, but also as little as possible. So when we design an intervention, we should always consider different options, and specifically thermal insulation, given the fact that it's very invasive, it can be applied, but it can be introduced, thermal insulation, when all other interventions that have a smaller impact on the construction are proved to be not enough to meet the goal of the retrofit. In terms of authenticity, well, we want to conserve the appearance of the original structure, and from this point of view, we can consider where it is preferable to use thermal insulation. So, namely, we can discuss when we can use internal or external insulation, and well. External facades are usually one of the most important aspects of an historic building, and they contribute to creating its unique and local character. So it is often preferable to intervene on internal facades. On the other hand, a large share of our historic heritage is composed of constructions whose value is mainly related to the role that they play as groups of buildings, to form the cultural identity of cities and townscapes. In those cases, it is also possible to adopt external insulation, so apply the retrofit on the external side of the building when the external appearance of the facade is reconstructed to conserve the general identity of the building and of the city. And this is particularly feasible when the wall surfaces are recognized not to all the cultural or tangible values, or when the surfaces are so damaged that they require a complete replastering. And for obvious reasons, all surfaces protected by the integral protection can't be touched, and the thermal insulation can't be added in that case. Okay, so starting from the authenticity principle, we can also discuss the thickness of the insulation and the dimensional changes that insulation can determine. So in general, the dimensional changes can be unacceptable at windows and door openings, or where the original surface details are very valuable. Thus, it is often necessary to limit the thickness of the insulation adopted in the intervention. So it is preferable to adopt thermal insulation solutions that can offer good performance with a very reduced thickness. And also we can discuss what type of insulation is better to use. Indeed, according to the principle of integrity, the removal, damage, and replacement of original materials should be minimized to reduce the loss of original fabric. So the damages introduced in the walls by the insulation fastening should be minimized. For this reason, insulating plasters, renders, mortars are typically preferable over boards and blankets, because these last types need anchoring points. And when the anchoring points can be substituted by an adhesive layer, the intervention is still feasible, but the reversibility of the application of the adhesive layer should be proved. So talking specifically about the reversibility, in historic buildings, the new additions should be recognizable and removable with minimal or absent damage to the original fabric. And they should not be so different that they stand out, but they should be distinguishable from the authentic materials, so that in the future the unoriginal materials can be removed. And from this point of view, thermal mortars appear to be very suitable because they offer a texture that is similar to the original lime mortars, but at the same time, they are typically recognizable because they have lightweight aggregates. And so thermal mortars are preferable, but also other types of insulations can be adopted if they are finished with gypsum plasters or other typical finishings that recall the original colors, shapes, and materials used in the historic construction. To conclude, we can define on a general note when the use of thermal insulation is excluded or not, and when it is better to use internal or external insulation. And something that we can say quite in general is that thermal mortars can be typically preferable because they don't need anchoring points or adhesive layers. They offer a great flexibility for the thickness, which is good because we can adapt their thickness to the dimensional restrictions of the specific case. And also they have a similar texture to original renders and plasters. And they also offer some additional positive aspects from the constructive point of view, because since they are mortars, they can adapt to uneven surfaces and provide gap filling abilities. So they can fill cracks and other damages that we can find in historic walls, and they can also be applied by mechanical spraying, which makes the intervention way easier. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Magda, for your presentation. And I think that that was really nice and informative, and a different way of looking at heritage from a more practical side. Do we have any questions for Magda? Would anybody like to raise your hand and ask any questions? Any questions from the floor? Okay, so maybe we can move on with the rest of the speakers, and then think if you have any questions, please raise your hand at the end of the panel. Thank you very much, Magda, once again. That was really great. So we're now moving to our first speaker, Mr. Heng, who is leading and coordinating the seminar today. Heng is a third-year PhD candidate in cultural heritage protection in the Architecture and Urbanism Research Group at the University of Leeds, and his research focuses on smart heritage and sustainable development, a study of innovative historic buildings conservation. Architectural heritage in Shanghai, China will be selected as his case study. His background, he's a civil engineer, and now he is conducting interdisciplinary research that is merging between smart heritage and engineering as well. Heng, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jihan. Thank you very much. So, hello everyone. In this session, I'm going to cover the architecture heritage smart management, excuse me, in a context of One Network integrated management platform in Shanghai, China. The One Network management is an image in China, but it is an essence with the full use of big data, cloud computing, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and other advanced technologies. It focuses on the comprehensive reflection of the various data characteristics of urban operation and aims to continuously improve the modernizational level of urban governance. The One Network integrated management platform using real-time online data and various intelligent methods to identify problems and situations in a city to prevent risks, and the most prevalent problems can be solved at the beginning and with an efficiency. This platform has brought together 185 systems and nearly 1,000 applications from more than 50 departments of the city. The digital protection, monitoring, and the management of historical buildings in Shanghai is one of the branch of this digital platform. This platform has 3 levels, consisting of city, district, and a strict town level. The problems or conservation issues monitoring and managed by this platform mainly include hazards monitoring. These include the unauthorized decoration, subsidence, erosion, crack, and the collapse of architectural heritage in Shanghai. At the current stage, the first problem, unauthorized decoration, is the most prevalent one, monitored and managed by the platform. Sometimes in China, especially in some urban areas, residents are doing some illegal decorations, which might cause some vibrations to the building, and this will further cause damage to the stability and the safety of the historical building. So the platform now is working on the monitoring of these kind of issues. As for why to conduct this kind of management, because for issues like those, they are sometimes hard to find problems. And once the problems are found, they are not they cannot be easily handled and efficiently coped with. So from a micro perspective of this platform, it is aimed to develop the 3 actions from early warning and disposal mechanism for historical buildings. At current stage, it is at the point stage, which means that the monitoring and management focuses on a single building or a small area of historical buildings. And those problems can be found from hotline complaints from the residents or administrators, or daily inspections from managers. And the next part, it is going to be the surrounding environment of historical buildings. And the final part is an area part, which should include surrounding environment monitoring and the regular inspections for multiple tasks of historical building management and conservation. So there are different stages and scenarios for protection and management. The front-end carriers include big screen command terminal, the personal computer management terminal, and the disposal terminal. And for data collection, there are different types of problem discovery, including automatic discovery, active discovery, and passive discovery. So for the function of this one network integrated management platform, it includes data aggregation, the analysis of collected data from sensors and personal supervising, as well as visualization platform, including 3D modeling of architectural heritage and the surroundings streets for fundamental information display and interacting visualization for different functions of the platform. Also, indeed includes the 3D digital map for the architectural heritage. So here is an example about how the screen for command terminal looks like. At the middle part, again, the platform provides 3D modeling for architectural heritage. So as you can see, there is some tiny heritage 3D heritage models and a map, a digital map displayed at the middle of this command screen. And at the left part is the monitoring management page, which includes how many cases are discovered in a day, what kind of measurements has been taken during the disposal, and at what stage the discovered cases are conducted or solved. And the right part is the case handling page, including how the case are handled, how many cases are statistics. So this is an example about the screen. At the terminal side, the administrator or supervisor can get involved into the situation via personal computer or their or mobile phone. They are going to develop some add-ons on WeChat that is social or work applications in everyone's mobile phone in China currently. So talking about the kind of discovery modes for cases, the first one is activity discovery. As you can see, this workflow from the street town management level to city level, the supervisor in the street town level will conduct the daily inspection for historical buildings. If there are any problem caused to the historical building, it will be recorded and delegated for verification. And then on-site verification will be needed to to ensure this case need to be fired to take measurements. And after that, it's dispatched to the area manager to conduct the solutions for rescue or for retrofitting or any kind of conservation measurements. And for passive discovery, the only difference between passive or automatic is from how the problem is discovered. For passive discovery, it is reported from hotlines. It can be reported from residents or tourists or even managers on their daily inspections. And for the automatic discovery, it is discovered from sensors which are implemented to the historical buildings previously to monitor different risks that the historical building might face in the future. So this is the full coverage monitoring and management example about how the problem can be found. And this is the fiber optometric sensor, which will be anticipated to be implemented in the future. At the current stage, it's still at the version 1.0, which using vibration sensors to monitor historical buildings. And as you can see, there are different levels of terminals for management, including management center, alarm messages to administrators, and terminal applications for the use. And here are vibration monitoring scenarios, including vibration sensors, crack sensors, and the settlement monitoring for the historical building management. The workflow for the sensor is coming from data collected from sensors, and it will transmitted to the platform, and the platform the platform manager will judge and generate case information for the dispatch for take any measurements or solutions for the historical building conservation or retrofitting or reuse or redevelopment. Here is a case study about how the work has been conducted at the current stage in Shanghai, Xishan village, which is located in historical district of Shanghai, covering 22,000 square meters, and is a typically building complex. It is a fusion of traditional Jiangnan residential architectural style and the British conventional row house style. So it is a combination of Chinese and Western architectural styles. Most of the buildings in this village is built between 1925 and 1930. In 2005, this village was included in the fourth bench of outstanding historically protected buildings in Shanghai. And as a pilot area, it is the installation of intelligent sensing equipment for historical building in Shanghai for the sensor deployment pilot promotion in China. Here are some examples about how the sensors are applied to the historical building. As you can see, some of them are put to the hidden part of the building. This is because of the consideration of aesthetic value for historical buildings, as again, the digital platform provides the visualization for where the sensors are implemented and how many buildings are implemented to for sensors. So after that, the sensor implemented to the building, it can monitor the vibration of the historical building in this village. So this is the presentation for this part. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Heng, for the presentation. I will also keep the questions until the end. I will refrain from asking you because I supervise this work, so I will not ask, but I'll leave everybody on the floor to please prepare your questions, raise your hands, open your cameras. Let's make it a little bit more interactive and welcoming questions as it goes. Our next speaker is Harshita Garg, a researcher and an architect with key talents in developing automated solutions for maintenance management of large structures. She's currently working on applying artificial intelligence techniques to structural health monitoring data to predict performance and service life of concrete structures to provide a new dimension to the concrete industry. Harshita's presentation today is titled Application of IA-based segmented regression of analyzing structural health monitoring data from the Abercorn Bridge. Harshita, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. My name is Harshita Garg. Thank you for the introduction, Jihan. So today we have heard a lot about digitalization and sensor monitoring. So my topic is a little bit similar to that, but to the analyzing part. So I'll be applying AI-based segmented regression for analyzing structural health monitoring data from the Aegean Bridge. So a brief discussion about the Aegean Bridge. So it was built in 1932 and is located in Newtown, Stewart in Northern Ireland. So this bridge was in use for around 84 years when it started showing the signs of significant deterioration, such as cracking, corrosion, spalling of concrete, exposing the reinforcing steel, which led to a reduction in the strength of the bridge. So this bridge underwent a repair plan, and additional lightweight concrete was casted on top of these existing decks after the repairs. Also, during the repairs, sensors were installed to check the monitor of the to monitor the repaired concrete. So, during the repairs, 3 commercially available sensors named Septopods were installed. So today I'll be discussing about the first 2 sensors, that is Septopod 1 and 2. So these sensors consist of multi-electrode array to acquire resistance measurements, thermistors to acquire temperature measurements, and 2 corrosion sensors. So these 2 sensors are kept 20 mm from the depth of the deck surface to see the resistance measurements near the deck. So this monitoring started after 3 months of casting the concrete, and the data was recorded for around 4 years and 2 months. And we gathered, data was captured at every 2 hours for 20 months, and thereafter it was captured twice a day using a data logger system. So we had collected around 6,000 sets of data. But the problem with the data was, as can be seen in the graph, that there was huge amount of uncertain sensor data, and it was difficult to process manually. And this data, if processed manually, sometimes could trigger a wrong judgment and untimely maintenance and repairs, which could increase the cost of maintenance. So we can see that data handling, smoothing, and processing large data set is now a typical sensor monitoring challenge. So we came up with an AI-enhanced SHM methodology that was implemented to the sensor data, and we demonstrated how this AI SHM methodology can be advantageous over a manual analysis to assess the performance of the repaired concrete in service. So the methodologies, after collecting the SHM data, this data was pre-processed and the raw data was converted into a suitable and useful format for processing. And then we identified what is the missing data and removed that data to reduce this influence. Then this data was resistance data was corrected for temperature and to remove the influence of temperature over concrete. So once this is done, the data is analyzed using AI algorithms, that is piecewise linear regressions, which consist of 3 parts. Estimation is the first part. Second part is k-means clustering. So this is an unsupervised machine learning algorithm followed by segmented regression. So the algorithms provided three parameters, that is time taken to stabilize resistance value, and change in gradient of resistance, which can then be used to determine diffusion coefficient that is used to predict the performance of the concrete. So applying this methodology to the Aegean bridges data. So first thing was to correct the resistance data for temperature. Here you can see that there is a huge amount of cyclic pattern can be seen in the as measured resistance, which is in purple and blue color. So once we saw that, we use an Arrhenius relationship to remove the influence of temperature on electrical resistance and considered resistance as an independent parameter to standardize it at a temperature of 25 degrees Celsius. And the huge cyclic variations seen are now completely reduced, and in green and blue, green and red color, you can see that this is the standardized resistance from the as measured resistance. So this shows that repaired concrete is actually naturally drying out, or it is due to the change in the microstructure, which is due to the continued hydration. So the initial observations that can be made from the standardized resistance are that resistance is increasing over the period for both the sensors. However, there was a decrease in the resistance in the first year. So when checked upon, it was there was a leakage then, and it was repaired, and after that resistance started to increase. Then again, we saw that there is sudden increase in the resistance, and the reason for that was there was some works happening in the bridge. They were drying out the concrete, to get rid of the excessive moisture inside. But as we do not have moisture content data or relative humidity sensors installed inside, so we cannot completely confirm that, but it was due to the moisture content and increasing the temperature resistance. But after that, we can see that for continuously 2.5 years, the data was resistance data was completely increasing. On comparing the resistance near the deck and near the soffit, we can see that resistance is lower near the deck, whereas it is higher near the soffit. It was because the bridge deck was sealed with a polymer-based coating, so that moisture cannot escape through the deck, while soffit, it was coated with water vapor transmissible membrane. So moisture evaporated through the soffit and therefore increased the resistance near the soffit. So for further analysis, this continuous data is used and now to predict the performance of the concrete that is based on resistance and diffusion coefficient. So it was essential to identify three parameters from this analysis, that is the initial rate of increase in resistance, a value of stabilized resistance, and time taken to reach stabilized resistance. So looking at the graph, you cannot identify what is the stabilized values. So an AI-enhanced approach is used. So AI-based algorithms are used, which consist of three parts, which is k-means clustering, elbow method, and segmented regression. So what it involves is the first step is to assume and divide the data points into certain number of clusters and to obtain a good estimate of the data point. But before doing that, we need to have the number of clusters that are there in the data points, because it's a huge amount of data. So elbow method has been used here. So the algorithm runs a certain number of clusters, maybe from 0 to 10, and identify which is the optimal number of clusters using the clustering algorithm. In this case, it identified that there are 3 clusters here in the line shown below. So these 3 clusters were further used in the clustering algorithm, which is k-means clustering. So this algorithm allocates the points to the nearest clusters such that the same group shares the same slope difference. So this algorithm initializes and computes the cluster of the data points until it finds the maximum slope difference and divides the data points based on that to provide the change in gradient. So the algorithm divides the data points into 3 clusters here. And for each cluster, it runs segmented regression such that the intersection point for the 2 regression lines is considered as the breakpoint for the change in rate resistance. And the final cluster intersection point of the final 2 clusters is considered as the ultimate breakpoint and is considered as stabilized value of resistance, or the time taken to stabilize the resistance value. So this methodology is easy to understand, is faster to run, and reliable and easily interpretable as compared to looking at the data manually, analyzing the data. So the final results drawn from the 2 sensors are shown in the graph. So the result satisfies the qualitative discussion made from the graph that resistance increases with time, and resistance at 20 mm depth from the deck surface is lower than at near the soffit. And on comparing these 2 sensors, the resistance for sensor 1 is expected to be lower than at sensor 2 because it is on the southern side, giving lower resistance values as compared to sensor 2. Also due to polymer-based coating, moisture is trapped in the deck surface and resistance is increasing near the soffit. So sensor 1 took less time to stabilize as compared to sensor 2. So now these values of stabilized resistance can be used in the equation d by d naught is equal to rho by rho bar. And that can be used to determine diffusion coefficient to predict the performance of the concrete. So when the value of diffusion coefficient is used in duracrete modeling, so it gives us the time to initiate corrosion at 45 mm depth for the 2 septopods will be between 45 to 50 years. So so after 45 years, we can plan the regular maintenance for the same. So the final conclusions derived are that the diffusion coefficient values given lies in the range of good to normal quality concrete, and this repaired concrete is performing well and is demonstrating the property to slow the corrosion process. So secondly, the challenges that were identified in handling, smoothing, and analyzing large data set manually, they needed to demonstrated that there's a need to resort to artificial intelligence for data analysis. And finally, this developed methodology represented that it is reliable, easily interpretable, and an effective approach that can now be applied to any kind of concrete and structures for monitoring and calculating resistance and diffusion coefficient values to predict the performance of concrete structures. So the final recommendations from the future work is that there was some missing data identified but that was due to the blocking in the data logger. So next time when the data logger is blocked, we need to identify what is the capacity of the data logger, and the data needs to be collected beforehand before it starts blocking and we start missing the data. Secondly, we found that there was moisture inside the concrete, which deviated the resistance measurements. So there's a need to install relative humidity sensors, both inside and outside the concrete, and maybe temperature sensors outside the concrete, so that if there is any other influence of the ambient environmental condition, that can be removed and from the resistance. And finally, this proposed methodology to extract reliable information from large data set can be repeated for any type of concrete and exposure conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harshita. That's really interesting work, and I think you've done a lot in your investigation. So yeah, I'll just keep the questions at the end. And we have one last presenter today, Mr. Zichen Liu, who is currently working at Gray Space Architects in Shanghai, China. He graduated with an MA in Architecture and Urbanism from the University of Manchester. His projects involve renovation, architectural design, hotel design, and installation exhibition design. The title of the presentation today is Manual Workshop Renovation of the Imperial Kiln Factory in Shenzhen. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me. So now I'm gonna start about the presentation. Hello everyone, I'm Zichen Liu from Great Space Architects, which located in Shanghai, China. Hold on a second. Yeah. We usually focus on hotels and renovation projects. Today, I'm sharing with you all about the renovation project in Jingdezhen. It's a low-density project and more about the sustainable city. Well, this presentation contains 4 chapters, which is background, vision, concept, and the final part design process. In the first chapter, I will describe the location of the site, the scope of the design, and the positioning process and the typology of the traditional workshop. First of all, okay, how to hide this? Oh, maybe it doesn't matter. Well, in the first chapter, I will describe the location of the site. The Jingdezhen is located in the south central part of China and has a humid, hot, and rainy climate. The city retains historical buildings dating back at least 500 years. The center of the city has been transformed into a heritage park and a museum, like the right up images here. This one is the new built museum. Around the park are typical artisanal workshops with wooden structures and red bricks. By the way, there is also a government requirement to preserve the style and features of this area, so we will not be able to make too many changes to the existing buildings. At the request of our client, we have selected several of these houses for design as a startup area for renovation. These include the 5 buildings, which are Y28, B15, B25, E15, E23, and Lotus Ridge. Next, we analyze the existing porcelain making process and the working place. The porcelain making process contains of 5 major steps, which are drying the raw materials, then mixing, then after that is the hand pulling, glazing, drying, and finally firing. The racks or girders under the roof and in the courtyard are used for drying the biscuit. Like as you can see, there are a lot of biscuits put on these beams because this ventilation and the daylight are very good here. It's good for drying the biscuit. Yeah, there are more images of the current situation. As you can see, there are many styles and different houses of this area. So I'll talk about the only 5 buildings around among our site. Well, the second part is our vision. It's more about our analysis of the interview content and design planning. First of all, there is a premise that this area is now mostly used by artists, including young students, artists, and masters. They work here, but their residence is located in the surrounding or far more, it's like rural areas, which is quite inconvenient for them, especially when their biscuits are almost finished. Therefore, the design plan considers providing a better creative environment and a place for temporary living. Based on this starting point, we have listed some questions to understand the spatial demands of their daily life and work, such as indoor lighting, furniture, etc. We compiled a mind map based on more than 200 visitor questionnaires. These include our operating model, users, courtyard planning, and basic functions of the different modules. In the overall planning, we hope to enhance the creative atmosphere of Jingdezhen. These spaces correspond to the needs of different customer groups, including commercial artists, or the second one is creative workshop, the apartment. This spaces correspond to the need of different customers. Like, yeah, we listed these three hold on a second. There's three parts. Yeah, the community is planned to according to the current spaces and the future residents, which is divided in three main characters. Then the third part is the concept, how to integrate the new functions into the existing buildings and meet the requirements of the fast construction and low cost. We refer to the modular design or metabolism, planning new boxes in the current wooden frame, just like this image shown. Of course, different workshops have different sizes, and we use cross sections to analyze the interior space. Some sections are rectangular, while others are single slope or a double slope. The height is in the range of 2 or 2 to 3.9 meters. There will also be some higher cross-sectional space. Well, the short side of the wells is basically between 2.7 to 3 meters, and there is no limit to the length. As you can see, you can put more and more blocks in here to extend this length. This picture shows therefore we took the short side of 2.7 meters as the short side of the module and measured about 20 buildings like we listed here on the site. The darker the color of the image with larger numbers, that we can plug in more modules, which are darker. It will be more modules could put in, but yeah, but when it's getting smaller, you put more. When you put more modules in here, which means the short side will be shorter, which means it will be more uncomfortable for people inside. Therefore, we found a balance point in this more than 20 buildings. And eventually we choose the 2.7 meters as the size of the short length. Then comes the design chapter. First up is the B15, which located on the west side of the Heritage Park. The site is being cleaned up after a structural renovation. The entrance to the courtyard is located in an alley. In the alley on the west side, the whole area is about 15 plus 15 meters. The first idea is to put two sides of modules with steps and use the roof where people's side could communicate up and down. But this will lead to a strong sense of pressure in some side spaces like here or here. It's not quite good for, especially here. It's not quite good for people's mood. So we try to just set one module here, which is longer, and cut the courtyard into two spaces with a larger yard and a smaller yard. The building is used as a crafting area, and the courtyard module contains kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom. From the entrance, the outer side is 1 meter lower than the inner side. So it's quite interesting when you see someone's head above the wall, which is seeing you. And also the wall material is red brick. Opposite the entrance is the module. The surface is made of mirror steel metal. And the reflection is used to increase the interest of the inner courtyard. The larger yard retains the existing framing and serves as a work area below. The smaller yard can be used for stacking works and also serves as an entrance to the bathroom, which is right here on the right. The roof of the module is designed to be accessible to the high point, which provides a good view of the yard. Then comes the E25. which was shops before along the street. It is about 26 meters long and 15 meters wide and have 2 floors. Our client wanted to combine 2 rooms into one. So this causes the stairs no longer work. Yeah, the client wants to combine these 2 into one, so it will contain 6 rooms in total. So this stairs won't work anymore. So in the design, we relocated the yellow one is the stairs. We relocated the stairs according to the new layout. The figure shows where the main functional modules locate, including public areas, public stairs, and private bathrooms and bedrooms, which was this is the sleeping module, and this one is the bathroom. Well, the first floor contains the public functions such as exhibition, office, and an intercourtyard, which is similar to the current situation. The second floor is used for private reception and rest. The wooden panels on the facade can be removed to extend the street office to extend the street space into the interior. Yeah, which is here. There's also doors. All these wooden panels can be lifted up, so it becomes the wall. So hold on a second. Yeah, and at the same time, it's larger and more comfortable at the entrance, where we located entrance here, at the entrance to the building. The first floor is a public communication area. Yeah, we put this wall, which is we create an entrance here, so people will get in the room from here. This one is the door on the side. So this one is transformed to a total glass, which is shown, showing their works. The first floor is a public communication area, and the lamps and also the decorations also made of handmade and natural materials. The stairs are arranged at the corners to make the public area more complete. The current then is E15. The current state of E15 is a building with a pole, and the practice of restoring the pole was considered in the design, which you can see the pole is here. This one will be returned to 2 or 3 artists. The sleeping module is lifted, while the stairs are used as supporting, as you can see, which are metal, are used as supporting parts, make a full use of the higher space under the sloping roof. On the plan, we added a corridor. Down here. We added a corridor to avoid directly exploring the interior. The toilets are located on both sides, making the entire ground floor a whole public area. The central area facing the pole faces water as an interactive communication space. From the section, we create a relationship between people's private area and the public area. This one is a sleeping module. People will sleep here. Below that is a working area. This is a corridor, the pool. The middle part is stepped to increase the possibility and interest. The height of the working area will be relatively low due to the existence of the shelf, and there is a possibility that the height the height might collide with the girder, like here. We hesitated if we should keep this small girders, but it's always a special experience of working in a workshop, so we kept it. The material at the entrance is made of wooden grid to achieve the effect of letting the sight penetrate through the wall to the inner place.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. You've got 2 minutes left, all right?
Okay, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's turn to the finished part. Well, these are the basic size of these modules. Here comes the finished photos. Also, basically achieve our design goals. In rainy days, the water flows from the roof into the pot below. E10C3 is a relatively square yard. We settled different lines of sight so that people would feel lost in here, which makes the yard more charming. Through the insertion of the box, the line of sight of the person is reflected or blocked. At the end, the glass is facing the yard. The glass replaces the metal to increase the sense of sight between the modules. The white and 8 has not changed so much, just as the module surface. The surface is made of corrugated iron to enhance the visual effect. Well, the final part is the Lotus Ridge area. Most of them are newly built buildings. Interestingly, the ruins are often discovered after when they dig in the foundation. As a result, the plan has been changed all the time. So at the present, the design is still in process. In the future, this area will be linked with the Xu family cairn area to form more characteristics in industrial area. The functions of the new buildings are yours and artist workshop, library, electrical cairn, and the overpass is divided into art and life experience. There is a electric cairn, then the workshop. Here comes the library, which is totally full wooden structures and screws. This is a structure. We use this 300 millimeters concrete wall and a wooden beam to form this building. The last page is the reference showing what we were going to do with the details. And you see, as you can see, the wood and screws. Well, that's all from me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Very interesting project there. So would really love to see that materialized at some point. Now we do have some questions coming from the participants here. First one is coming from Erna. Erna, would you like to open your camera and ask the question and pose the question yourself? Or?
Okay, thank you, Jihan. I just have questions. I'm not actually coming from the heritage background, but I was wondering, I've always visited heritage sites, buildings to get a sense of the atmosphere of the past. How do we measure the amount of heritage properties to retain in order to provide or maintain essential environment between people and the memorial sites now that we have access to digital information? Like what I see from the presentations, there's a lot of digitizations of buildings, and then now they have like virtual going on. So what level of monitoring is possible? I don't know to whom can actually answer this, but most likely would it be Heng or Abdulrahman can explain this? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Yes, I can answer this. So I'm gonna answer your first question. So the amount of heritage to retain or to protect, I think, in my humble opinion, it depends on the importance of the heritage. Sometimes we have world-class heritage which is listed by the word heritage by UNESCO. That is the top class of heritage for protection and conservation. And sometimes we have national or local heritage protecting unit. So for this question, it really depends on the importance of the historical building. And to be detailed about the importance, it can be the year it has been built, what specific features it has, or what kind of spirit it might symbolize via the architectural heritage. And for the next one, what level of monitoring is possible? Okay, so I'm going to take the crack monitoring as an example. So at current stage, the crack can be monitored by different sensors, different kind of sensors. And also, the size of the crack can be monitored by the sensors. For instance, if the structural engineer set the sensor previously at an accurate range of the crack, for instance, if there is a crack on the wall of historical building, which is quite normal to every ancient building, of course, it happens to any kind of materials. So once the size of the crack exists, the maximum or allowed the range, it will send warnings to the structure engineers or managers for the historical buildings. So this is the level, like the range of crack that can be monitored by sensors. Does that answer your question, Erna?
Oh yeah, okay. Thank you, Heng.
Thank you for your question.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Erna. I think we have a hand raised here from Queenie. Go ahead, Queenie, open your camera and ask the question. And then we go to Danny.
Okay, I have two questions here, and one for Heng and another one for Zichen. And the first one is, there are many steps in the whole process you designed. So which one is the most challenging one, do you think? And what the challenge is? This is for Heng. And another question for the last presenter. I would like to ask that how could you balance the traditions and the modern style? I mean, including the lifestyle of people who live there and the production process, because we all know that the case study, in your case study, the place is a traditional handicrafts area. So how could you balance these two things and to avoid the whole place becoming a over commercial area? So that is a real problem that I focus on. Thank you.
Thank you, Queenie.
Thank you, Queenie. So who wants to go first?
Yeah, I will go first.
Heng, go first.
I just want to clarify, your question is about the most challenging part in the process, right? In the whole process, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so now the most challenging part should be the part for integration or cooperation. So as you can see, the whole process of management or the development of that platform consists of different departments and professionals from different disciplines of a city. So sometimes data can be collected for engineers, sometimes for urban planners, but sometimes when they want to cooperate with each other to see how the rescue solution or the redevelopment design can be made, So that can be a problem for them to cooperate with each other, because different authorities, they have their own rules and orders. They sometimes they cannot share their data or what kind of information they have with other people from another authority. So even though the technology part is not a problem for developing the platform or monitoring and managing the building, but cooperation part sometimes need to pay more attention and efforts to make the project work smoothly.
Thank you. So maybe we need to develop more regulations or guidance for all stakeholders and to cooperate.
Right. Exactly. We need some standards to give them guidance when they get involved in that situation.
Thank you.
Okay, and there's a question from Queenie to Zichen Lu.
Yeah,
of course. Thanks you for your asking. Well, I think the first part you need to figure out is how many people or what kind of people are gonna use this area, these buildings. From what we thought, we'd like to keep everything we could to keep these traditional things like structures, roofs, like also all the brick walls, but it need to be used. So it will be more alive. When someone are using these spaces are alive. There are a lot of things in their daily life, like they are making their work, or they are talking to each other. They need somewhere to gather and talk to each other, or grab a drink, of course. Yeah. So so the first thing you need to figure out what kind of people are gonna use this area. Then how many people? The scale of the people kind of decide the size of your design. Because when it's one or two person or a family using a house, it's not gonna like 20 or 30 students live together. It's a totally different thing. So I think it will be great if you do, before you do your design, you need to find out the historic things, like what is at the old time, what people do here, what they are doing, and what's their activity, and right now what they are gonna do. And if there is a chance to grab these things together, you could find his studies, like if you wanna build a club or something, you need to find some cases and grab the things. What are people doing here and the scales? Then try to transform in there, and also then you need to look at the structures, the current situations, to balance everything. That's the most difficult part. And yeah, get more case studies. It will help you a lot. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. I think Danny, you have a question.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Song. So I see there was a pilot application of monitoring, managing, and using for the platform. So were there any problems found out based on the previous applications, and what can be optimized in the future? Thank you. That's it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So at the current stage, even you saw that case study with pilot application, but there is no one integrated platform that can have everything in a space. So meaning that not all information for heritage protection, reuse, regeneration, and urban future development are managed together or integrated together. So sometimes in the future, we might need to think about what can we do to make each parts or rules for our urban development work together to, again, back to what Konstantina mentioned in her slides, to appreciate the past, to value our heritage while considering the future development of our city. So based on the platform, it can be optimized to integrate all information needed for heritage protection or heritage virtual touring for people from different places, or even like metaverse based use for future like gaming development or some other applications, but also how they can benefit to its users, to urban managers, to residents, or to the future generations. Is there any future educational meanings for the following generations? Those are things that can be optimized, I think. Yeah.
Thank you for answering.
Thanks.
Any other questions from the floor? Okay, I have one question to Magda. Is Magda here? Yeah, hi. Thanks a lot, Magda, for your presentation, and really several key terminologies that you brought into the talk today about authenticity and identity, and how do we redefine those terminologies that have been sitting there in a lot of guidance and policy documents, just moving between UNESCO, ICOM, ICOMOS, many things. Within the environment of smartness that we are discussing today, do you think that we need to revisit those definitions once again, and we need to look at more innovative approaches of understanding and approaching authenticity, and what does it mean, and how can we do things like retrofitting in a more smart and different way? How do you see the future with this?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the traditional conservation principle adapt very well to more traditional technology, so the typical interventions. But when you go towards smart technology, smart monitoring, everything is different. But it's a very big chance for conservation, definitely, because the more you monitor, document, the better you can conserve. So definitely there is space for a change, but it's a great chance.
Right. Konstantina, I feel you would like to add something here, so please go ahead.
Yes, something small. My personal opinion is that they will have more tools, but I think that so far the chapters of Venice and all these documents work very well. So now we have more tools, we can benefit more ways to preserve better cultural heritage, to have more data about their condition, about the hazards or the future preservation. But these terms, this terminology, I think that it is a basis that we can always look back and find our way to the near future.
Yeah.
So it's not the purpose that changes, is the way, the tools.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the methods, and how do we understand it? How do we implement it? I think this is the way forward to it. So This is amazing. And just a very general highlight from all the presentations and the talks today, which I think each one of them had a specific innovative aspect of understanding smart cities and smart heritage, and how can we move forward. And specifically now we're starting to talk about what comes after the SDGs of the Sustainable Development Goals of 2030. And a lot of talks is not just about the 2030 SDGs, but what happens after that? How can we integrate in a more holistic approach to look at, how can we look at education, equality, good performance, sustainable cities, resilience, and so on. So I think every part and every talk today was corresponding to these questions and these challenges in one way or another. And maybe I will just, keep the floor open to understand, how our cities are going to look like in 20 or 30 years from now. What are we talking about? What are we planning for? And what are the pathways into understanding, that implementing that kind of holistic approach of cities and being more innovative and more smart. But equal to that is that, what aspects of cities are we trying to change, and what kind of modifications are we looking for? What didn't work in the past, and then we're trying to modify that, we're trying to renovate that, we're trying to make it work in a better and more efficient way. I think that's a key question that maybe we come out today to think about, all of us. And most important, what is the impact of this kind of holistic approach of methods and pathways and approaches, and who's going to benefit from that? So we're looking at it from many perspectives, but again, at the end of the day, we need to create impact and change in societies to have more resilient and sustainable lives. Just something to pose to everybody to think about, and I think everyone is trying to contribute to those questions in one way or another. So I'll end my closing here, but before we go, I wish to thank everybody, and specifically our two keynote speakers, Konstantina and Magda. Thank you very much for joining us today and sparing the time. Really great talks and very informative. And also to thank our 6 speakers today who I think did a great job of bringing new ideas for us and new discussions for us to think about and to be more innovative, and hopefully a lot of lessons to be learned from today's discussion. And thanks a lot to Heng for organizing the seminar today. And he's been working on this for a couple of months, and I think he was in touch with everybody here. So thank you very much, Heng. And thanks to Andy as well for helping and supporting the organization of the seminar today. If there's nothing else to add, so I would like to close here and thank you all and have a lovely day. Thank you very much.